Everybody is a slave. We are all a slave to something or someone. We are prisoners to something or someone. So what is the definition of being in prison? It's you're in an environment where you cannot escape, either physically, mentally, spiritually, or whatever. So in that sense, we are all slaves. We're a prisoner of someone or something. The prison of the mind is the strongest prison. You're stuck, and you're stuck there. That sentence is for however long you're holding on to that in your head. Someone who's betrayed you, a bad circumstance or situation, some terrible incident happened to you. Usually it's around something negative, right? That you're living, you're trying to struggle with, you're having problems with. You just can't escape it mentally. Bad breakup, something. So there's reaction or response. Reaction, emotionally driven. Response, thoughtful, logical, methodical. Response, action oriented. How to handle something.
Bam.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Young Nguyen, affectionately called Ninja by my friends and family, and because my fans are my friends and family, you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning to the end, talking about life, motivation, drive, success, self-improvement, self-development, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. Feeling fantastic on this, what we're recording on a Friday afternoon in Houston, Texas. Just finished my 3-day fast, feeling light, airy, a little lightheaded. So if this doesn't make sense today, it is what it is. But before we get into that, I want to start my episode as I start every day. If you're new to the show, I always start my day with an expression of gratitude to God, the universe, for another day, another opportunity to inspire somebody else, to make people better, the world better. And so with that, I want to thank my fans and supporters out in podcast land for supporting me now, coming on, by the time you listen to this, 2 years of nonstop, weekly, haven't skipped a week, consistent weekly podcast, bringing it to you. So I want to thank you all out there. If you're new to the show or just recently tuned in, I do this show on my own dime, on my own time. Pay a lot of money to have my team work on these, produce these, record these in a studio time, all this stuff. So the only way we grow the show and achieve our mission of inspiring billions of lives across this planet in a positive way to live to the fullest controllable potential is for you to share the show. That's the only way we get the message out. So we do this on a value exchange. If you learned something, found something humorous, just even 0.001% got better from listening to this episode or any other episode, please share the show. I like to say, if your knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. We're kicking off in March, episode 97 here, and my memory is jogged by the expression, beware the Ides of March. And this goes back to Shakespearean play Julius Caesar, where Brutus, his close personal friend, stabs Caesar and basically kills him while they're walking towards the Senate or the Colosseum or somewhere in the play in Rome. Beware the Ides of March. Et tu, Brute, right? He's like, and you too? You, Brutus? And so it brought me to the thought of, last episode, I said everybody that's listening, everybody in the world is an artist, right? You control the brushstrokes of the masterpiece that is your life. At the same time, everybody is a slave. Everybody is a slave. We are all a slave to something or someone. We are prisoners to something or someone. So what is the definition of being in prison? It's you're in an environment where you cannot escape, either physically, mentally, spiritually, or whatever. So in that sense, we are all slaves. We're a prisoner of someone or something. For example, if you're in massive debt, you're a prisoner of the banking system. If you have a pet or something like that, and that you can't leave at home alone, and so you can't go on vacations or do whatever, can't take them to boarding, they just need you all the time, you're a slave or a prisoner of your dog. Maybe you're at a job, a dead-end job, but you can't get out of it. You can't leave the job, but you hate the work you're doing. Well, you're a prisoner or a slave to that job. because you cannot escape that situation. Obviously, physically speaking, if you're an actual prisoner in a jail cell, you're physically unable to go anywhere. You are stuck where you are. And so many of us, all of us, are slaves to some circumstance or some prison. You know, I was having every week we have dinner with my elderly parents, my kids. So 3 generations: my kids, myself, my wife, and my parents who are in their 80s, late 80s. So every week we have dinner. I pick them up, bring them to the house. We cook dinner, have a nice family bonding time. This happened last night. And we were talking about a certain situation where, you know, somebody betrayed my dad, and, you know, he's been hanging on to this for decades and can't get away from it. How do you deal with it? You know, we were talking about ways to deal with it, which I'll get into. But in that essence, because it's weighing on his head, in his mind, and he's unable to escape it mentally, and this is an important part, mentally, then he's a prisoner of his own head, of his own thoughts. Has nothing to do with the reality of things, but he can't escape it in his mind, in his spirit. And so he's a prisoner of it. And I say this because the prison of the mind is the strongest prison, right? You could be physically in jail, but if you have a free mind, you're, right? You can escape it, at least in your mind, your imagination, so you don't feel so confined. But once you become a prisoner of someone or something in your head, you're stuck. And you're stuck there. That sentence is for however long you're holding on to that in your head. Someone who's betrayed you, a bad circumstance or situation, some terrible incident happened to you. Usually it's around something negative, right? That you're living, you're trying to struggle with, you're having problems with. You know, you just can't escape it mentally. Bad breakup, something. Lost a job, got fired, something is in your head that you are stuck. And it has nothing to do with reality, but it's in your head and it's living there. Therefore, my friends, if you have that situation, I've been there too. You become a prisoner of your own head, of your own mind, of your own thoughts. And the reason that's the worst type of prison is because it typically relates to something that's happened in the past, right? And it's something you cannot do anything about. Plenty of times I've had situations, man, why the hell did I do that? Embarrassed myself, failed at something, somebody, you know, betrayed me or betrayed my trust, got duped in a deal, lost a lot of money. And I sit there and think, man, why would I let myself do that? And sat there for days. And this is when I was much younger. Days and weeks and months, like, why would I do that? Kept beating myself up, not realizing that I was imprisoning myself, a slave to my own thoughts, but also not realizing that I have the key to unlock that prison. So that's why it's the worst prison, being a prisoner of your own thought, because you have the key to let yourself out. All you got to do is unlock it and walk free from those thoughts, those feelings. Right? It's a different circumstance when somebody else is holding the key. You might not have control of that situation. I would say you do, but that's a different conversation. But in other situations where somebody else has the key to that, quote, slave or prison, slave system or prison, can't do nothing about it. But the one that's in your head, you have the key to unlock. And that's why it's the worst prison. And it's the hardest to escape, because oftentimes we're the hardest on ourselves for no reason. Right? And so how do you unlock that prison in your mind? Okay, there's multiple ways to do it, right? This is my way. This is how I deal with it, or how I learned to deal with unlocking prisons in my head, right? Because again, there's only 3 things you control: your thoughts, what you say, and what you do, what you think, what you say, what you do. Those are the things you can control. So this, we're talking about what you think. Okay, you can control any of that. So why put yourself in that mental prison? Okay, so when I talk about controlling what you think, there's two ways to handle any given situation. Okay, you can react or you can respond. And what's the difference? A reaction is an emotional based response, essentially. It's an emotional based response. And so if you've listened to me or you know what I'm talking about, or you know where I'm coming from, that's the worst type of response, is an emotional one, because often they're irrational. It's in the heat of the moment. There's no thought involved. I understand fight or flight. Got it. That's when you're in danger. But generally speaking, in life situations, a reaction is a negative way to handle something because it's all built on emotion. Could be could be hate, fear, anger, love, over exuberance. And so you go out of control and, just go crazy. Those type of reactions you don't want. Those are the negative types. Contrastingly, a response is a thoughtful, methodical way to handle something. A response is a slower, thoughtful, methodical way to handle something. Okay? So when you respond, it's more based on reality, what it is, understanding it is what it is. How do I handle it? How do I deal with it? What are the steps I need to take? Okay? So there's reaction or a response. Reaction, emotionally driven. Response, thoughtful, logical, methodical. Response, action-oriented. How to handle something. So what does this have to do with breaking away from being a prisoner in your own head? Okay? The way I do this, and you can feel free to take this if you want. This is free game. I try to just visualize putting it in a box. Whatever is bothering me, what I did wrong, how I embarrassed myself, something bad happened, just anything negative that is imprisoning my head. I try to put it in a box. And I say, it is what it is. If you know me, you know that I have that sign in my office. It is what it is. I have a cup. It is what it is. So ultimately, because it's in the past and I can't change it, it is what it is. And so once I put it in the it is what it is box, right, I try to remove any emotion or reaction tied to it. Because you see, my friends, it's the reaction that's holding you in the mental prison. Okay? The response allows you to break free of that prison. Once I put it in the box, then I get to think about it and respond to it and figure out the path to get out of that mental prison. And over time, that response took long, depending on the circumstance or situation. Man, I lost a lot of, just this past year, got duped, lost like 12 grand. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? I've seen this before. Why did that? And then I put it in a box. And then once it's in the box, it's like a Rubik's Cube. I get to look at the angles, understand it. Okay, this happened? Okay, this was the conversation. Okay, this is where I missed, the signals that messed me up. This is where, okay, if I would have responded a little more assertively, it would have revealed, the scam earlier. So then I get to look at it and respond. And then once you understand it, now you've broken free. See, when you're reacting, you're just emotionally driven. I can't believe that happened. Oh, man, I'm so angry. You have no time to analyze what actually happened or how it happened or break it apart and figure it out. And so therefore, you are constantly just living in the prison. Why would he do that? Yeah, why would somebody do something like that to somebody? Why did that happen to me? You're asking all these emotionally triggered questions versus how, what happened? Okay, how do I avoid this? What are the lessons I can learn? So when you put it in that box and you move it around like a Rubik's Cube trying to figure it out, once you get the answers, now you've broken free. Those answers, my friends, is the key to unlock the mental prison. It happens to all of us. Negative things happen to all of us. Failures happen to all of us. Falling down, getting up, brushing ourselves off, getting out of the mental prison. You have to release that mental prison energy in order to move forward. Because that energy, every bucket's only 100%. So whatever your percentage you have in your mental space that you're putting towards that prison, being imprisoned, is less space you have to work on positive things, to work on things that actually bring progress or success or put you on the path. You see, my father has been struggling this for decades, right? Can't get it out of his head. How much time has he lost in his mind? Right? Nothing against my dad. I mean, this was a pretty traumatic event. But he had to work through it to release himself from that imprisonment in his own head. You, my friends, all of you have the key to get yourself out of your mental prison. Right? Now, here's the other thing. We live in this matrix. If you go to episode 29, I talk about 3 types of matrices that the world is shaped with. Okay? There are negative mental prisons, but at the same time, there are positive ones. Right? What is an example of the positive ones? Well, man, I'm a prisoner of working out. I can't tolerate myself either mentally, and my body gets all weird if I miss 2 or 3 days of working out. Right? But is that a bad thing or a positive thing? Right? I'm a prisoner of feeling good about making money. I love to make money, and if there's a decision between making money and something else, I'm going to go try to make some money. Is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? I'm a prisoner of wanting to help other people. If I have a choice between lazying around, hanging out, or going to help somebody, I'm going to go help somebody. It's something I can't escape. Let's go help somebody. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Again, we can only control what we think, what we say, and what we do. And in that control, you can create your own prison. You become a prisoner of what you can do, which is on the good ledger or the bad ledger. That's up to you. Right? Because when you think about the right things and you put yourself in the, quote, prison of the good things, you're building. It's progress. Right? You wouldn't call it a prison because you really don't want to escape it, but you can't escape it. Right? You're a slave, quote, slave to it. Slave to working out. Okay, great. Slave to making money. Hell yeah. Slave to helping other people. Love it. Nothing wrong with it. Right? So you get a choice. You get a choice. But the matrix is set up to where we are always a slave or imprisoned to something. That's just life. As negative as it sounds, turn it into a positive. Focus on the positive things. Get into the habits of the positive things where you're like, man, I don't want to break free from this because it's so good. Nothing wrong with that, my friends. Nothing wrong with that at all. So the idea here is that to understand we are a prisoner of the matrix, okay? When we can get in another episode, I'll get into how the matrix intentionally tries to imprison you. But for this particular episode, this is breaking free of the matrix of your mind, of the prison in your own mind. Because, my friends, you can control what you say, think, and do. And in those 3 things, those are the keys. That's the combination to unlock the prison of your mind, of your own thoughts, and to break free of the negative ones that are incarcerating you, keeping you in, tied down. Unlock those. Put them in a box. Respond to them. Think it through. Figure it out, and then break free. Don't hold on to it like a weight around your ankle. Break the chain. Move on. Okay? Beware the Ides of March, right? Caesar got stabbed by his best friend. COVID started in March. Remember that? So beware the Ides of March. Hopefully this gives you some ideas to push into the summer on a positive note. Become a prisoner or a slave to the positive things. And then move forward towards your goals. Happy to bring you another episode of the End to End podcast. I end my episodes as I end my day. Before I put my head down on the bed, I thank God, the universe, for another day to have lived, and hopefully have inspired somebody to live to their fullest controllable potential. So with that, I want to thank you, my fans out there, supporters who have liked, comment, shared, subscribed to the show. Please continue to do so. Our audience keeps growing on a daily. And so as we get more content out to you, please do like, comment, share. Thank you so much for following and supporting for 2 years. Coming on episode 100 soon. Trying to think about, what episode number 100 should be. If you have any suggestions or any thoughts what I should talk about, please do leave them in the comments on our socials at End2End Podcast, or email me, ask@the2N podcast. So if you're knowledge swole, please share the show. That's how we grow. Looking forward to bringing you another episode next week. And be great today, but be even more grateful. Thanks for tuning in.
What's up?